This overview of cover crops is applicable to most areas of the country. We'll cover the benefits of cover crops, things to consider prior to planting, and general groupings of cover crops and some of their basic characteristics. Many growers have found that cover crops are multifunctional, providing several benefits. Cover crops can increase rainwater and irrigation water infiltration into the root zone and increase soil moisture holding capacity. They can provide biological nitrogen. They can also suppress weeds. They can provide honeybee and beneficial insect habitat, protect the soil against wind and water erosion. They can help manage plant pathogens and also nematode problems, reduce compaction, and they can provide a biodegradable mulch which can protect the soil surface from direct sunlight and reduce evaporation from the soil surface. And they look a lot better than bare soil. Before planting a cover crop, there are several things to consider. When to plant, either fall, summer, or winter. Which species and how many species to plant. The seeding rate, which is reflected as well in the seeding cost, and whether to broadcast or drill the seeds. And I would note about broadcasting seeds. If the grower is broadcasting seeds, they should use a higher seeding rate and drag the seeded area, with some implements such as a chain link fence harrow shown here to increase seed soil contact. If the broadcast area is not treated this way, the seed might be eaten by hungry birds or simply not germinate because it's not in the soil. Other considerations: to irrigate or not to irrigate the cover, machinery to manage the cover crop, whether to allow or not cover crop to go to seed to avoid or reduce seed costs, how to terminate the cover crop using either disking or flail mower, roller crimping, grazing, or chemical kill. And then funding sources. The Natural Resources Conservation Service has a 340 conservation practice standard. Your state may have some funding sources, or there's even some private company programs that provide funding. This chart summarizes about several dozen cover crop species, their relative water demands, whether they're cool season or warm season plants, whether they're grasses or broadleaf, and if they're annual, biennial, or perennial, as well as a word about their structure. For growers not used to cover cropping, it's a good idea to keep it simple, but also keep in mind that planting more than one species provides a bit of what I call germination insurance. That is, if growing conditions are not good for one species, they may be ideal for the second species or a third species. Growers with experience with cover crops generally favor mixes, as the diversity of plants supports a diversity of soil microbes. It should be noted that the more experience you have with cover crops and the more years you plant them, the more your soil and likely your bottom line will benefit. So just a brief review of the different groupings. Grasses have fibrous root systems, which can add organic matter to the top layers of the soil, as well as do a good job of holding onto the soil and protecting against wind and soil erosion. Grasses can generally survive low water conditions as young plants better than broadleaf or dicot cover crops. And I would note that there are cool season and warm season grasses. Cool season broadleaf cover crops. These plants generally have more of a taproot, which can grow through tight clay soils to provide air and water passage. These plants are generally early bloomers, especially the mustards. And I would note that mustards are one of the few plant families not infected by arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, which is, those are beneficial fungi. And mustards have glucosinolates in them and other interesting compounds and can be used to help manage nematode populations. And I would note that Phacelia, listed here, is also used as a cover crop and is a plant native to California. Legumes, both cool and warm season, are used primarily as nitrogen fixers. And I would note the wide range of water use, structures, and growth cycles. And if legumes have not been planted in a field, it's important to inoculate the seed with the correct species of rhizobium bacteria to ensure nitrogen fixation. Other warm season cover crops, which is a very diverse group of broadleaf covers, all with edible seeds. Some, such as buckwheat and sunflower, are very good habitat for beneficial insects. And here are some useful resources related to using cover crops.